design with two cattails. You'll use your largest cattail as your heaven line, and then your smaller cattail, about 3/4 or 2/3 smaller than heaven. And you're going to, on your drawing, I drew a kenzan bird's eye view so you know where to place them in the kenzan in a row. So towards the back of your kenzan in the center, but then bend them outward. There's nothing to be placed in the plumb line in the center. Then we're going to use a sunflower, and we're going to place that, if this is, and include the tip as part of your length. So if half of that is about here, well then your fourth is about right here. So this is a fourth of the height of your tie or your heaven line. Then the next thing you're going to place in are your magnolia leaves, and you can see they have a beautiful shiny green on one side and felted brown on the other. And I think the felted brown looks so pretty. It ties together your cattails and the color of autumn. So you can cut out some of the leaves, especially if they're very large and bushy. And then you're going to simply cut a beveled angle off of these small pieces and just stick them in the front. And this should be no taller than half the height. It can be lower, but no taller than half the height of the heaven line. And you'll put it towards the back or right next to your cattails. And it'll frame in your sunflower. Then you're going to place in your hypericum berries, and they can be any number of colors: yellow, lime green, red. This is an orange salmon-y color. And you're going to take off all of the hypericum leaves because they just don't hold up very long, and they'll wither and shrivel up and dry. So you'll want to take those off. So take all the foliage off of the hypericum. If you have a droopy bunch of berries, you can kind of weave them through the other berries to get them, especially if they still are hanging on by a thread, they'll still get hydration. So try to weave them in to salvage them, or floral tape them in a section or in a grouping, and place them at 3 different levels in 3 different placements in the arrangement. And then lastly, you're going to use your willow. Your willow may be going this way, and then it may be going this way, and it may be going this way, and you may have to cut it apart. And because the willow stems are very small and fine, when you cut off your hypericum berries, you will have a piece of hypericum stem left over, and you can take your floral tape and you can floral tape. Don't tape all the way to the bottom. You want to be sure that the tape does not get in the water because it tends to unravel and come apart. So leave a bare section of stem and just tape it so far. You can look at your willow eucalyptus to see which is the front side and which is the back side. If you only see the stems and not the leaves, you know it's the back side. If you see the leaves, then you know it's the front side. So don't try to argue with the willow and put it in which direction it doesn't want to go. Use it as it's growing, and you can cut it. Remember, you can cut it apart and you can retape it to make it go where you want it to be. But you never want all of your cascading things to be symmetrical. So no antlers on both sides. We want it to cascade from the back, from the side. Ikebana should always be asymmetrical, and work that in, and it just gives a nice blue. You can see how long these are, and with my base I can cascade it without anything touching the edge of the container. Have some cascading materials. An Ikenobo bowl. Ikenobo is the oldest school, and all other schools are based off of Ikenobo school. This is a plastic Ikenobo bowl, but if you look in the inside, you'll see that there's a shelf built in to the bowl, and this is a formed plastic one that's been sprayed. And then this is another Ikenobo bowl. You can always tell an Ikenobo bowl because it's broader at the top and beveled and chiseled at the bottom, and very slim base, a very small base in comparison to the opening. And they always usually have a shelf. If they don't have a shelf, and you have sometimes you'll have a little ledge or a rim inside, and normally they would include a plastic disc with a hole in it so the water can go in, and so the plastic disc, you take it out, wash out your bowl, and it's also for air bubbles to escape as well. But these bowls are nice because they're raised up so they're higher. Well, what do you do if you don't have an Ikenobo bowl? Well, this is also an Ikenobo bowl. You can take your regular pottery bowls that you have, and you can simply, if you go to an Asian store or a place that sells ginger jars, these are like little puzzle pieces that just fit together like this. It's a ginger jar holder, and you can put them together and then just raise your container up like that. Now, I was also inspired, I went to Lowe's, but you could go to any kind of hardware store. A lot of times they'll have a bath department. This is a soap dish. And I just bought that, and then you can stand it up on a soap dish. A little, I mean, it's a little lower, but that's a way to raise up a container. If you have a deep container like this, it's quite deep, you want to put pea gravel in the bottom and then put your Kenzan in the top. This is a bowl that my daughter made for my husband and I. It's beautiful. Don't ask me if she can make some, because that's not going to happen. But you can see I bought these clay pot feet in sets of 3, and then you simply put them in a triangle and put them right underneath your container, and there you have a footed container, so it's raised up. And then the other, this is iron, so it will rust if you put water in it, but it has feet on the bottom. But to keep it from rusting, you can use a well Kenzan inside. And then lastly, at the hardware store, you can find feet that go to chairs or a table. And what you want to find is ones that are no slip, that are pretty big, that you can use. You place them in a square, and if you have a nice flat bottom container, now you have a pedestal container. Okay, so there's all kinds of ways to think outside the box to make your container pedestaled or raised up. Okay.
You want to show that tall one?
Oh, this one, my husband bought me this. I love this. And a nice little scroll. Becky gave us this for photo ops. But this is a beveled well, so it just fits in there. Our Kenzan sizes are normally too big to fit down in there, so to do the mechanics, I have to use a smaller one, and I can just set it in there and then drip some things over the side. So I love this. So anyway, another tall nagire shaped container that you can still use a Kenzan in. Welcome to our October 2022 Moto Ikebana class. Our cultural feature today is taiko drums. So this is not a taiko drum, but it's similar in some ways to a taiko drum. Taiko or daiko is drum, and there are 2 types of taiko drums. One are the great big, maybe 5 feet in diameter drums that have the nails in double rows around to hold the skin on the head of a hollowed out giant tree. And sometimes they can weigh hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And then there is the type that has a steel band that supports the skin of the top of the drum. And then those are typically held with ropes or cords. And then I'm going to cross over here and tell you about, these are all different kamons or crests or even symbols, all for drums. And it shows all the different kinds of daiko or taiko drums. And there's some that are smaller that you would put around your neck and you would play with both hands, or put it under your arm and play it that way. This is a symbol that's used a lot for taiko drumming, and this is a photograph of the Cincinnati-Dayton chapter of taiko drumming. This is from a long time ago, 2014, so I don't know if they're still performing, but we did have a troupe, and one of the ladies who took lessons from me was a member of this troupe, the taiko drummers. So let me share with you the video, and then we'll get back and talk a little bit more about that.